Today we are covering the pros and cons of living in Dacula, Georgia. And that is right, you pronounce it Dacula, not Dacula, as I thought whenever I moved here 7 years ago, and that is what Google Maps calls it. It always gives me a great chuckle. So Dacula, Georgia is a small town on the eastern side of Gwinnett County with a population of around 7,000. So size-wise, it's not that big either. It's got an area of about 5.5 square miles. However, the Dacula zip code goes pretty far beyond the city limits, stretching down near Loganville and Lawrenceville and up near Houston. It sits right near the border of the county, which means it's very close to Barrow County as well. Now, depending on where you're at in Dacula, you're about 37 miles north of Atlanta. So you're close to the city, but you're not very close to Lake Lanier. You're a little bit further away from that. You're going to have much more of a drive to get over to the lake. But its location is very convenient to other big towns in the suburbs of Atlanta. So what are these pros and cons of living in Dacula? In January 2022, the average sales price of a home in Dacula was $475,000. Now, depending on what other areas you've been searching in, you might find this price point to be a pro, or you could find that to be a con. If you have been looking in, say, Alpharetta, which has an average sales price right now of $626,000, Dacula's price point might be a major pro to you. If you've been looking, more so in the Barrow County area, Winder, even Auburn, for example, that price point is much, much lower. If we use Auburn, for example, that has an average sales price of $359,000. And so you might think that Dacula's home prices to be considered a con whenever you're comparing it with that area. One of the biggest downsides of Dacula is that there is just not a ton of new inventory or inventory at all in general. The median days on the market for a home in Dacula is 8, but the average is 26. This is something I definitely noticed as I was flipping through the current listings on our local MLS system. It just didn't quite make sense to me. Many of these houses were listed back in November and December, and in this current real estate market, this is definitely on the unusual side. And so when we dug a little bit closer and looked at these listings, majority of the listings in Dacula are currently listed by iBuyers like Zillow or Open Door. To me, as an agent, this explains a lot of why these houses have sat on the market for longer than a normal time period. It takes a lot of time and effort to get a contract on these homes listed by these iBuyers. For example, we recently had clients who recently purchased a home that was listed by Open Door, and it took us 12 days from the time that we placed an offer to the time that we finally had a binding contract in hand. Now, this is because you're dealing with a corporation. You're not dealing with a normal seller on the other side. You are having to take into consideration like weekends, and someone at a corporate office is not working on the weekends to sign an offer. All of those things combine into making a much, much longer transaction period for these homes owned by iBuyers. For a lot of people, they're just not in the position to wait this long to get under contract, and they may move on to something else. Another reason that these iBuyer houses end up on the market for so long is because once it's been listed for more than a week in this market, people have a tendency to assume that something is majorly wrong with the home if it has been available for several days, because they get used to everything being snatched up so quickly. Another thing is that typically Open Door will use a strategy where they'll put a home on the market and they will not review any offers for 7 or 8 days. They do this because they want to try to create a frenzy of buyers and that bidding war. But having homes sit on the market for so long could lead people to think that home has major, defects because it's been available for a week and they haven't gone under contract. So what's wrong with the house? And then because of that, this just kind of prolongs the time that it sits on the market. Now, this can be beneficial for buyers who decide to look at these houses anyway and find out that there isn't any major defect and that they can make an offer lower than listing price because the house has been on the market for a month. However, you're going to need some patience. Working with these iBuyers, they do not like to negotiate, and sometimes they're really hard-headed when it comes to working with them in negotiations, especially when a home has been on the market for a while. It's definitely, though, a great option for buyers who have had a hard time winning a bid in more kind of competitive environments. Another thing that you're going to notice about homes in Dacula is that many of them were built in the late 1990s and very early 2000s. There are a few new construction communities, but most neighborhoods in the area are older and more developed. Again, this can be seen as both a pro and a con. Many people love the idea of a nice established neighborhood, while other people only want new construction. So I'll let you decide whether that's a pro or a con. There are not a ton of grocery stores in Dacula, but luckily if you are right next to Lawrenceville area has a ton more options. And there are a few local spots to eat at, like Brunch Apothecary, which is definitely a popular spot. You know, unlike towns like Brazelton, there's not a ton of small town charm if that's what you're looking for. But you are not that far of a drive away, though, if you want to hop in the car and enjoy the downtown area of Brazelton. It's just a few minutes down the road. One thing that is really great about living here in North Georgia is that if the town you live in doesn't seem to have something that you're looking for, whether it be shopping, charm, good restaurants, access to the lake, you're not that far away from other towns really close nearby that has exactly what you're looking for. And I bet in the town that you're in, you're probably used to a little bit of a drive anyways, so consider that same 15 to 20 minute commute. It's going to give you everything that you want right at your fingertips. Another thing that we consider such a huge pro to living in an area like Dacula is the proximity to, well, everything. You are close to Atlanta if you want to go down to the city for a concert, sporting event, fancy date night. You got the aquarium, the zoo, all kinds of museums. Or you can drive north and go to the Blue Ridge Mountains to enjoy their beauty, taking a great hike. One thing that Dacula does have a lot of, and that is parks. You've got Dacula Park, Rabbit Hill Park, Maple Creek Park, my favorite, Little Mulberry Park. It's an amazing, huge park, great for walking and spending hours. The list goes on. So if you like a nice place to take your kids to play or to go on a run or play tennis, if that's the kind of thing for you, you definitely have a ton of options in Dacula, and that is a major pro in my book. When it comes to schools, there are actually 3 different high schools that service the Dacula zip code. You've got Dacula Elementary, Middle, and High School. All are in Dacula, obviously, but some parts of town are actually districted for Mill Creek High School, which is actually in Houston, and you have Archer High School, which is in Loganville. These are all Gwinnett County schools with pretty good rankings that you can find online. We all know schools are very important, and it's a personal decision for families with school-age kids, so we always recommend that you do your own research, especially if there's a particular program your child needs or wants to be in. And you can find all of that information online about schools to gather your own opinions. You can actually also call the school board to ask about test scores, student-teacher ratios, and all that kind of good stuff. And you have some great websites like greatschools.org, which are going to cover a lot of that for you as well. It's always great to get other parents' opinions, so you might want to check out community Facebook pages to gather personal experience from other members of the community as well. So what do you think? Is Dacula on your list of potential spots to relocate to? What do you consider to be a pro or a con for this town? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you are looking to relocate to Georgia, you have to consider these towns. Make sure you check out these videos, and it is going to give you a lot more options to put on your list of places to consider when moving to Georgia.